President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump, arriving. Hand salute. Security arriving. Plane of national. Now, President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump, arriving. Hand salute. Ready? 2. Color guard, advance the colors. Hand salute.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Color guard, retire the colors. Ready? 2. Now, Chaplain Todd will deliver the invocation.
A reading from St. Paul's first letter to the Corinthians, chapter 13. If I speak in the tongues of men and of angels but have not love, I'm a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith, so as to remove mountains but have not love, I am nothing. If I give away all I have, and if I deliver up my body to be burned, but have not love, I gain nothing. Love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It's not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Let us pray. Eternal Father, in your graciousness you have given us the great honor and privilege of serving as part of the United States Coast Guard. You bless us with the joy of serving with shipmates we respect and value, and we are especially mindful today of the blessing of having served with and benefited by the leadership of Admiral Paul Zukunft, for whom love is the highest calling. As this ceremony calls to mind many years of memories, we pray that Admiral Zukunft will be blessed with the satisfaction gained from a successfully completed mission, that lives were made better by you, O Lord, through him. Because of your goodness, Lord, we are also bold to ask for your spirit of wisdom and strength to rest upon Admiral Admiral Schultz as he assumes command of the Coast Guard. Surround him with wise counselors, protect him from both spiritual and temporal enemies, and grant him success in his calling. Lord, we are also bound to gratefully remember the blessing of our military families who also faithfully stand their watch. We thank you for your love, O Lord, shown through Mrs. Fran Danino Zukunft's tireless advocacy on behalf of our families. And we pray for Mrs. Dawn Schultz as she assumes the Ombudsman at Large mission. Grant a special blessing to our Coast Guard families. And finally, dear Lord, be with our shipmates who right now are on duty, underway, or standing the watch. Send your holy angels to protect them in their tasks and grant them a joyful reunion with faithful loved ones who wait for them at home. It's into your hands we commend our prayers, trusting in your love and mercy. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain Todd. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Military members, you may uncover. It is now my distinct pleasure to introduce the Honorable Kirsten Nielsen, Secretary of Homeland Security and the Service Secretary of the United States Coast Guard.
Well, good morning. It's so wonderful to see many of you here to support this change of command ceremony. I'd like to welcome the President, the Vice President, Admiral Zukunft, Admiral Schultz, Vice Admiral Roy, members of the Cabinet, members of Congress, dignitaries, former commandants. Appreciate you being here as you always continue to be part of our family, and other distinguished guests. Today is a day of hails, a day of farewells, and a day of thank yous. As we welcome Admiral Schultz as the 26th Coast Guard Commandant, we say farewell to Admiral Zukunft and thank them both for their exemplary service to our nation. Service above self, an Admiral Zukunft quote, is a reflection of his 40 years of service in the Coast Guard, words to live by that I share. I am honored to serve as the Coast Guard Service Secretary and extremely proud that the United States Coast Guard is a part of our DHS family. We are fortunate to have a great champion for the men and women of the Coast Guard in our Commander-in-Chief. Just last month, President Trump, Admiral Zukunft, and I toured the Joint Interagency Task Force South, where he praised the Coast Guard for the difficult and dangerous work that you do every day to stop drugs, human traffickers, and illegal immigrants from entering the country. As he said, it's something that the people of the United States very much appreciate. The President has recognized what you all know, that the Coast Guard is a vital member of our national security team. So after years of the Coast Guard being asked to do more with less, and less, and less, President Trump has fought for the recapitalization of Coast Guard assets, requesting $1.9 billion for 2019. That includes funding a new offshore patrol cutter, 4 fast response cutters, and the nation's first new heavy polar icebreaker in more than 40 years. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention the Coast Guard's outstanding response to the historic 2017 hurricane season, a truly remarkable undertaking. Overseeing that response across the Atlantic area was Admiral Schultz. Under then Vice Admiral Schultz's guidance in the field, the U.S. Coast Guard performed exceptionally in assisting Americans everywhere in need. Admiral Schultz's competence, leadership, and dedication to country was evident in the mission, and the President and the Coast Guard thank him for that, as well as the larger DHS family and that of a grateful nation. As he assumes command today as the Commandant of the Coast Guard, President Trump and I have full confidence in Admiral Schultz's ability to lead this proud organization with honor and integrity. It is now my distinct privilege to introduce our nation's Commander-in-Chief, the 45th President of the United States of America, President Donald J. Trump.
Thank you very much, Secretary Nielsen. Great job you're doing. That was a wonderful introduction, and your leadership as the Coast Guard's Service Secretary has been very much appreciated and respected. Thank you very much. Great job. Thank you as well to our great Vice President, Mike Pence. Please stand up, Mike, for joining us today. I'm thrilled to be here with the brave men and women of the United States Coast Guard. You are America's first line of defense. The best of the best. These are exciting times for America. We are being respected again. We're being respected abroad. And we are restoring our wealth at home. It's about time. We have reached yet one more historic milestone, with 3.8% unemployment just announced and another all-time record low African American unemployment, Hispanic unemployment at an all-time low in history. We're very honored by that. And by the way, for the women out there, the lowest unemployment in 19 years. And I'll be soon saying that will be in history also, very soon. That won't take much longer. We're honored to be joined for today's ceremony by Director Coates, Dan Coates. Where's Dan? Thank you. Thank you, Dan. Director Alice, Commissioner McAlennan, Administrator Long, and Acting Director Holman, who's done a fantastic job, along with many of our senior military leaders, General Dunford, General Selva, Admiral Richardson, General Goldfein, and General Langell. Where is everybody? Stand up. These are serious, powerful, incredible people. Please stand up. Great people. Thank you. Incredible people. We're gathered together today for a truly special occasion. we are here to mark a change in command of the United States Coast Guard and celebrate the incredible career of its 25th Commandant, Admiral Paul Zukunft. Great job. He's got his family here. They're very proud. They should be. And Paul, I have to tell you, on behalf of the American people, I thank you for a lifetime of noble service. Congratulations on everything you have achieved. For nearly half a century, 45 years, Paul has proudly worn the Coast Guard uniform. That's a long time. You don't look that old. Really, that's amazing. 45 years? 45 years. How good does he look? 45 years. Must be something awfully good happening in the Coast Guard. In that time, he has led every kind of mission, and he has never backed down, ever, ever, ever. He's never lost a challenge. For the past 4 years, Admiral Zukunft has led his brand and this brand of the United States Armed Forces as Commandant, and he has led with extraordinary skill and devotion and pride. Today, we also thank Paul's wife, Fran, for her own service over the years, including as a devoted mentor and representative for military families. Fran, please stand up. Thank you, Fran. I hate to tell you this, Paul, but she got a bigger hand than all of us, including me. I don't know if I'm happy about this, Paul. Thank you, Fran. And Fran, we're grateful for everything you've done to advance the Coast Guard mission. It's been a lot. We're also joined by the Admiral's mother, Marge, his brother, Eric, sister, Karen, son, Brett, daughter, Heidi, and granddaughters, Stella and Adeline. Stand up, family. Come on. Paul is very proud of you. Thank you for supporting him in his mission and bringing so much joy into his life. Throughout the Admiral's tenure, he poured his heart and soul into the service of our nation, and he brought remarkable vision to the task of ensuring the Coast Guard's rightful place at the forefront of American security and prosperity. Everyone here today understands a crucial fact. America is safe because our Coast Guard is strong. And last season, during the hurricanes, I was in Texas, I was in Florida, I was in Puerto Rico. I saw the work that you did under the most adverse conditions. And I've said this to a lot of people. I don't think any brand has gained more momentum or has gained more of anything than the brand of the United States Coast Guard. People have tremendous respect for the United States Coast Guard. True, right? I've told you that before. You are the elite force that defends our borders, patrols our waters, protects our cities, and keeps our enemies at bay. Paul sharpened the Coast Guard's focus on the Western Hemisphere, a crucial legacy that will long outlive Paul's tenure. This includes greater emphasis on drug interdiction and the formation of historic partnerships to stop this deadly poison, and that's what it is, it's poison, from reaching our shores and destroying our youth and others. Paul also worked tirelessly to protect America's interest in the Arctic. His leadership helped launch the Arctic Coast Guard Forum, and he made a top priority to ensure that the United States military can project American might all the way to the poles. One of the first times I met the Admiral, last year, I asked him, "What do you need?" He replied, "Sir, we need icebreakers, and we need them badly." Well, now you're getting them. And to be specific, I'm pleased to report that the Coast Guard is now on course to receive its first new heavy icebreaker in more than 40 years, and plenty other ships and boats and equipment and everything you need. Our new budget, just passed, $700 billion this year, $716 billion next year. You're going to be very well taken care of. You're going to have to split that with a few others, but that's okay. You're splitting it up a little bit, but that's a lot. Never been anything like it. We have the greatest equipment in the world, and we make the greatest equipment in the world right here in the United States. We're committed to a military and security budget that funds and recognizes the Coast Guard's vital role. There is no better investment than giving you the tools you need to keep drugs, criminals, and terrorists out of our country. Commandant Admiral Zukunft also spearheaded a new Coast Guard cyber strategy, so important, and he was at the forefront. He recognizes that we must harden our industry, ports, and waterways against cyber intrusion. Paul's stellar record of achievement is a testament to his talent and to his leadership, but it's also a testament to the amazing talent of our Coast Guard men and women who carry out their missions with excellence every single day. You chase down our enemies, track down our adversaries, and face down our greatest threats. Nobody like you. You secure our borders against traffickers, smugglers, criminals, some of the worst people anywhere on earth, and we feel secure. And through driving winds and pounding rain and thundering seas, the Coast Guard is always there doing what it does best, saving lives. In last year's historic hurricane season, our Coast Guard, heroes they are, saved almost 12,000 American lives in that short period. It's an unbelievable number when you think of it. It's an unbelievable number. 12,000. And I got a little education. I asked the Admiral, when that big monster is coming in this case to Texas, and it was coming in, they've never seen a water dump like that, I think, in history. In terms of water coming down, and it would come in, go out, 3 times, 4 times. There's never been anything like it. And his guys and gals, they just followed that thing back and forth, and you were all over it. I said, how dangerous is it? He said, sir, you don't want to know. I said, can the boats ever go down? You know, we have great equipment. Can the boats ever go down? And he said, yes, sir. And that was when I decided I won't be joining the Coast Guard. But he said, they go down. No matter how good you build them, they can go down with those big, powerful waves, can't they? So, great job. That was an incredible job you did. Thank you. Many service members left their own homes and families to plunge out of helicopters, wade through perilous waters, care for the wounded, and rescue the stranded, of which there were many. Your selfless courage has earned the gratitude of our nation. With this ceremony, we proudly pass the helm of the United States Coast Guard to the man who oversaw those emergency operations, Admiral Carl Schultz. Admiral, stand up, Admiral. Stand up. As commander of the Coast Guard, Atlantic area, Admiral Schultz took responsibility for the Coast Guard response across the Gulf Coast, the Atlantic, and the Caribbean. I have complete confidence that Carl will carry out his new mission with the same talent, strength, and devotion that have characterized his entire career. He has had an incredible and very brave, but an incredible career. Carl, we congratulate you and we thank you for answering this call to service. We also thank your entire family for undertaking this journey with you. We are glad to be joined today by the Admiral's wife, Dawn, his mother, Elizabeth, daughters, Kelsey, Lindsay, and Annalise, and sons, Eric and Zachary. Thank you very much. Stand up. Stand up. As we observe this change in command, it is a great moment not just for the Coast Guard, but for our entire nation. The Coast Guard record is unsurpassed anywhere in the world, from the courage of your heroes who manned the landing craft in the South Pacific, to the legendary prowess of your pilots, to the astonishing feats of your rescue swimmers. Your service makes all of America proud. We are very proud of the Coast Guard. More so today, I will tell you, more so today than ever before. And for that reason, America knows that we can always count on the Coast Guard, because the Coast Guard is always ready. Now, Admiral Zukunft, would you please step forward so we can formally recognize your accomplishments?
Rise. Military members, attention to award. Citation to accompany the award of the Homeland Security Distinguished Service Medal, Gold Star in lieu of a second, to Admiral Paul F. Zukunft, United States Coast Guard. Admiral Zukunft is cited for extraordinary meritorious service to the government of the United States in a position of great responsibility as the 25th Commandant of the United States Coast Guard from May 2014 to May 2018, leading the 88,000 active duty, reserve, civilian, and auxiliary volunteers in the Department of Homeland Security's only armed force. Admiral Zukunft transformed the organization's strategic focus to best meet our nation's vast maritime interests and cement our service's standing as the world's premier Coast Guard. His strategic intent, supported by a suite of functional and regional plans, include the Western Hemisphere, Arctic, cyber, and human capital strategies aligned with broader national objectives, galvanized organizational effort, and yielded incredible results. Under his leadership, the service enhanced international partnerships and surged assets to extend the maritime border and combat violent criminal organizations threatening regional stability, established the Arctic Coast Guard Forum to advance governance in emerging region, advanced the service's cyber capabilities with national effect, and earned a fifth clean financial audit. A masterful communicator, Admiral Zukunft aggressively shared the service's value and garnered unprecedented advocacy across the spectrum of administration and congressional stakeholders, culminating in funding to recapitalize severely aging cutter fleets with sophisticated new offshore patrol cutters, polar icebreakers, and waterways commerce cutters, and accelerate the repair of decades' worth of shore infrastructure damage. Proving his convictions that assets are hollow without people, in 2017, Admiral Zukunft, alongside partner agencies, surged 3,000 Coast Guard men and women who saved nearly 12,000 Americans and fully restored our $4.6 trillion waterway system in the wake of one of the most catastrophic hurricane seasons on record. Admiral Zukunft's leadership, dedication, and devotion to duty are most heartily commended and are in keeping with the highest traditions of the United States Coast Guard and the Department of Homeland Security. Given this first day of June 2018, signed the Honorable Kirsten M. Nielsen, Secretary of Homeland Security. Please be seated. Thank you, Mr. President and Secretary Nielsen. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to present the 25th Commandant of the United States Coast Guard, Admiral Paul F. Zukunft.
Well, good morning, everybody. I know it's hot out here, but to remind us, we have soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, Coast Guardsmen in full body armor, standing in harm's way where it's 120 degrees today. They volunteered to serve, and you volunteered to be here. So we have a little bit in common here. But truly, Mr. President, you honor our men and women serving around the world today. Mr. Vice President, you honor our service as well, as you did last week when you commissioned 202 brand new ensigns in the class of 2018. Our service secretary. When Secretary Nielsen said, well, why June 1st? Well, as most know, especially Brock Long, our FEMA administrator, knows, today is the first day of hurricane season. Yes, this is a good time to cut and run. We have almost the entire Joint Chiefs of Staff with us here today. General Joe Dunford is sitting down on this end. General Paul Selva is over here. My dear friend John Richardson sitting over here. Fingers, Dave Goldfein sitting on the other side. Joe Lengel. I know the other Commandant could not be here, Bob Neller. And I just got off the phone with Mark Milley. He was called away, but Jim and Conville, thank you for representing the joint services, who are truly joint, but also to our component chiefs in the Department of Homeland Security, the operational ones with whom I work with the most. Kevin McAleenan at CBP, Tom Holman at ICE, Brock Long at FEMA Tex Alice at our Secret Service, and my classmate Dave Pekoski, the TSA administrator. We are truly unified. Truly unified as an interagency under the leadership of our service secretary, Secretary Nielsen. So thank you for being here today. I couldn't hear them. I didn't know they were here, but I understand the great class of 1977 is somewhere in this audience as well. I'm going to talk more about them later because this really is a class filled with class, and we'll get back to that in a few minutes. Because, yes, this is blistering heat. The Vice President got off a little bit easier last week at the commencement address, not so much the year before when President Trump addressed the class of 2017. And now we have the President back yet again, and here we are. But this has truly been a first of firsts for our United States Coast Guard. First time ever we have had this level of leadership, the highest leadership in the land, the highest leadership in the world, to stand before the world's best Coast Guard. And so, Mr. President, on behalf of the men and women serving around the nation today, I thank you for taking time out of an extremely busy schedule to honor our service today. Thank you very much. So when I came into this position, I told my senior leadership team that it's high time that we swung for the fences. For too many years, we went up to the plate and then we'd square around and bunt. You're never going to hit a ball out of the park when you bunt every time you step up to the plate. So I said, we're going to swing for the fences. Well, swing we did because, Mr. President, you went to bat for the United States Coast Guard, and you hit it out of the park. 2018 was the largest appropriation ever for our United States Coast Guard. But as I was telling the President, it's not about the money, it's not about the platforms, it's the people who serve in them. And I speak to every service chief. It's about the people. Well, right now, 95% of our first-term enlisted are re-enlisting again. They do not want to leave the Coast Guard. They see that their nation is making an investment in them. And one of the watchwords for Admiral Schultz is that the work they do could not be more relevant. And so they stay. And so if the father of the Coast Guard was here with us today, the father of the Coast Guard, Alexander Hamilton, he would look down fondly because when the Coast Guard was established in 1790, we were literally a bankrupt nation. We could not afford a United States Navy. So the Navy was disbanded and we stood up a fleet of 10 revenue cutters to generate revenue and to protect our maritime borders. Well, fast forward that clock today, and the Coast Guard serves around the world. We removed more cocaine than all of U.S. law enforcement combined with just this one service of ours, the United States Coast Guard. We secure our maritime borders. But what's not realized is our waterways. Our waterways that connect to deep water ports, that connect to the global supply chain, that are maintained by the United States Coast Guard. That generates $4.6 trillion of revenue, of GDP, each and every year that our men and women of the United States Coast Guard enable. So yes, Alexander Hamilton, he was very frugal, but I would say we got a good return on investment. Hence, the bagpipes. We also play the bagpipes for my mother, who is 100% Scottish. My father was 100% German, so we end up with a stubborn cheapskate for a commandant. No, but all kidding aside, when I look at what we are investing in, our fleet of national security cutters. Originally, this was going to be a fleet of 8. We now have 11 on budget and under construction. The offshore patrol cutter. It was a hope in 2014, and senior leaders before me had worked this effort. Well, it's a reality. And the first one will hit the water in 2021, with many more to follow. Our patrol boats, we call them fast response cutters. The best lieutenant job in the Coast Guard. People ask me, what am I going to do next? I'm going to hang up these shoulder boards, I'm going to put 2 bars on, I'm going to screen for a 154-foot patrol boat. I'm coming back as a lieutenant. Bill Kelly, can I do that? I'm already the oldest admiral, I might as well be the oldest lieutenant. Yeah, we're building polar icebreakers. First one arrives in 2023. And then that $4.6 trillion that we enable, well, it's enabled by a fleet that is nearly 70 years old today. Not in the Smithsonian, but still maintaining our waterways to this very day. Designed at a point in time where women did not go to sea. They were not in our service. So we need to get up with the times as well. So we're building out a fleet of what we call waterway commerce cutters. In 2019, we will open up a cyber curriculum at our United States Coast Guard Academy. You can't hire them off the street because everyone else is competing for this very same talent. So you have to grow the talent. And grow the talent we are. In fact, our top graduate last year will spend a career in cyber. He's a Fulbright scholar attending Oxford University today. So when I look at the talent coming in today versus the talent that came in 1973, it's a very competitive field out there with great folks. I hear a few. All right. Hey, statute of limitations is run out, guys. We're good. We're also investing in unmanned aerial systems as well, as are all the other services. Some of our work, do we actually have to put people in the harm's way? Or do we have dispensable platforms that can be the eyes for us so we don't have to call loved ones to say their loved one fell from the sky, or yes, those boats really do sink. Now, all of this is happening at a point in time when you recapitalize, there's usually a counterbalance. And the counterbalance to that is you cut your force strength. You cut people. We haven't had to do that. So not only are we investing in all these platforms, we're investing in our people as well. We're growing the force, our active, our reserve, our civilian workforce. I sign every 30-plus year certificate of public service by all of our public servants in our United States Coast Guard. We can't do our job without them. And even more importantly, you have much of the senior leadership of our Coast Guard Auxiliary. This is an all-volunteer component that contributes millions and millions of man-hours supporting our missions each and every year. Because I don't have enough people to do that work. I know when the other Joint Chiefs heard about this all-volunteer service, they said, how do we get some of that? Hey, they're mine. But anyway, it's a great model for us. And many times they're the first face of our public here doing recreational boating safety as well. But they proudly wear their Coast Guard Auxiliary uniform, very similar to the one we wear as well. So, yes. We did swing for the fences. And you know what, Mr. President, you selected another franchise player to take the field in the name of Admiral Carl Schultz, who very soon will be our 26th Commandant of the United States Coast Guard. To Carl, Dawn, and family, welcome aboard. You will just be amazed how quick these next 4 years go by. We are literally term limited. You don't get to run again for another term. But I know together you will have Carl's side each and every step of the way, just as Fran and my family has had my back each and every step of the way. So yes, we swung for the fences, we hit a home run, but this is an infinite game, and yes, the game goes on, and so it must go on. So with that, I will now read my orders. From Coast Guard Personnel Service Command. To Admiral Paul Zukunft, Admiral, United States Coast Guard, subject, orders, new assignment. Proceed to your home of selection upon retirement from the United States Coast Guard. It didn't say aloha, but I'm going to add aloha to that as well. Thank you very much. Admiral Allen, on Coast Guard headquarters, haul down my flag.
Aye, aye, Admiral. On board Coast Guard headquarters. Haul down Admiral Zukunft's flag. Hand salute. Ready, two. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing. Admiral Zukunft's flag has been lowered to signify the end of his watch. Presenting him his flag today will be the 12th Master Chief Petty Officer of the Coast Guard, Stephen Cantrell. Please remain standing. Admiral Carl Schultz will now read his orders.
From Commander, Personnel Services Command, to Admiral Carl L. Schultz. Upon relief of duties as Commander, Atlantic Area, detach and report to Coast Guard Headquarters for duty as the 26th Commandant of the United States Coast Guard. This constitutes a permanent change of station from Portsmouth, Virginia to Washington, D.C. President, I request your permission to relieve Admiral Zukunft as Commandant of the United States Coast Guard, sir.
Permission granted.
Admiral Zukunft, I offer my relief as Commandant, United States Coast Guard, sir.
I stand relieved. Mr. President, I have been properly relieved as Commandant of the world's best Coast Guard. Congratulations. Good job. Well done. Thank you, sir.
Mr. President, I am proud to assume command as 26th Commandant of the United States Coast Guard, sir.
You will be fantastic. Good luck.
Thank you, sir.
On board Coast Guard Headquarters, break Admiral Schultz's flag. Hand salute. Ready? Two. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. It is now my distinct pleasure to introduce the 26th Commandant of the United States Coast Guard, Admiral Carl Schultz.
Thank you. Mr. President, Mr. Vice President, Madam Secretary, Admiral Zukunft and Fran, it's an honor to be here this morning. I can't believe I'm going to say this, Mr. President, but I'm kind of glad it's the start of hurricane season. For a while there, I thought you were going to sign the boss up for 4 more years, or you're going to take the job, and you would probably lateral in a pretty senior position, sir. So it is an honor to be here. To all the senior leaders, distinguished guests, international partners, our former Secretary of the Department of Transportation, the Honorable Norm Mineta, it is my distinct privilege to have assumed the duties as Commandant of the 26th Commandant of the United States Coast Guard. President Trump and Secretary Nielsen, I'm both humbled and honored by the trust you have placed in me in your nomination to this esteemed position, charged with leading the extraordinary men and women of the world's best Coast Guard. As I've assumed my new duties, I'm confident that we have built a strong leadership team that will be guided by the words of our 6th President, President John Quincy Adams, who noted, if your actions inspire others to dream more, to learn more, do more, and become more, you are a leader. We have pulled together such a team and are eager to get about the work of leading this Coast Guard. Demand for Coast Guard services has never been higher. From a late nation that looks to its 5th and smallest armed service to be Semper Paratus, always ready to serve and protect the people and our vital national interests. America's Coast Guard is a highly professional and agile armed force, a law enforcer, a common sense regulator, a maritime first responder on which the American citizens and our plethora of maritime partners confidently rely. This past Atlantic hurricane season, as the President noted, was unprecedented in terms of storms, and the nation saw its Coast Guard at its finest, saving more than 11,000, almost 12,000 people, reconstituting our economically vital waterways and ports, and taking care of 700 Coast Guard families who too were victims of the devastation. Your Coast Guard, Mr. President, vigorously supported the Federal Emergency Management Agency under the capable leadership of Brock Long, the states of Texas, Florida, Louisiana, Alabama, the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. We also saw Coast Guard men and women thwart transnational criminals in the Western Hemisphere at unprecedented levels. We saw these same Coast Guard men and women secure our more than 350 domestic seaports in our maritime borders. And they enabled the movement, as the Commandant talked, of $4.6 trillion of commerce on America's waterways on a vast maritime transportation system. And we saw the service project national presence and sovereignty into the high latitudes. This organization, called the Coast Guard, embracing an unmatched collaborative approach that extends across the interagency to a robust network of international, state, local, tribal, territorial partners, the Coast Guard remains a service that is trusted, respected, and valued by our fellow citizens. Our Coast Guard is, in fact, strong. We have been a well-led organization. The privilege of assuming command today is amplified by the fact that this will be a seamless transition, much more about a continuity of command than a changing of command. Because of the tremendous leadership of our 25th Commandant, Admiral Paul Zukunft. These past 2 years, I've been blessed with the rich opportunity to serve on Admiral Zukunft's senior leadership team as commander of our Atlantic area. One could not have asked for a more supportive of empowering boss than of our 25th Commandant, a man who ascribes to the concept of leading through leaders, allowing frontline commanders to make decisions, to act innovatively, and to accept reasonable risk. As I survey the waters and the opportunities that lie ahead for this service, I envision our heading remaining generally steady, but we'll look to pick up speed where possible and where appropriate. When I reflect on the leadership of Admiral Paul Zukunft, I'm drawn to the words of our 40th President, Ronald Reagan, who noted, "The greatest leader is not necessarily the one who does the greatest things. He is the one that gets people to do the greatest things." To Paul and Fran, Dawn and I and our entire family, and the entire United States Coast Guard total workforce, sir, we salute and congratulate you on a remarkably successful tour as our 25th Commandant. And Fran, as our Ombudsman at large, you have just lived that graciously and with class and have made a difference in the lives of the 42,000 men and women that call this our service. Thank you so much for what you have done. It is my role today to be brief. So let me just say a few words acknowledging the unwavering support of my wonderful family. Dawn, the stabilizing force in our family, in nautical parlance, that anchor to windward. Our remarkable group of resilient, adaptable, supportive kids, Kelsey, Lindsay, Annalise, Eric, and Zachary. We couldn't be prouder of them individually, collectively. Thank you, guys. Also with Team Schultz today is my mom from Connecticut, and extended family, my father-in-law in from New Jersey, and it's a strong showing from Dawn's side of the family. We're just pleased to have you here. And please indulge me for a minute. We've got a terrific turnout from our 1983 Coast Guard Academy class. Can I ask the leaders for change to stand up, please, and be recognized? Thanks for the support, folks. Class of 83, our superintendent at the Academy, Mr. President, is none other than Jim Rendon, who's here today. So we're all going to descend on his house this fall for our 35th reunion. He doesn't know that yet, but we're going to show up in bigger numbers. In closing, Mr. President, Madam Secretary, you have my solemn obligation and the full commitment of your new service leadership team to deliver a Coast Guard that will be ready, relevant, and responsive to the needs of the Department of Homeland Security, to our Department of Defense combatant commanders, and to the American public writ large, and to the men and women of the United States Coast Guard. I'm eager to serve alongside of you as we employ our bias for action to build on past success and lead this terrific thing called the Coast Guard into the future. May God bless the United States Coast Guard. Semper Paratus. Rear Admiral Allen, all orders and instructions remain in effect.
Aye, aye, Admiral. Thank you, Admiral Schultz. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing for the playing of Semper Paratus and the departure of the official party. Military members, please recover. Now, the President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump, departing. Hand salute. Ready?
There we go. Hello, everybody. It's Joe Seals here back at the RSBN studio here in Auburn, Alabama. I'm joined with a special guest here in studio today.
Hi.
Tara Broderick. Let me take that thing off there. Yeah. So I just wanted to come on and say hi and test out my new mic here. We got this new microphone over the weekend, which I think is going to be really good for us. So let me know how it sounds out there. But you were just watching President Trump speak at the U.S. Coast Guard change of command ceremony. We'll be monitoring breaking news all day long. I want to see some feedback on this microphone, though. I'm really excited to see that. Yeah, we'll be monitoring the breaking news today. If there are any other developments out of the White House, we will go on air and cover them. Tara is ready here. She is ready to go. Austin, you want to say something? Okay. Sorry, we have Tara's boyfriend, Austin, is here today in studio as well. So just wanted to say hello really quick here, testing out this mic. Let me know how it sounds. I really want to know how it sounds. So I will sign off now, but thank you all for watching us. Appreciate all your support, and we'll be back on the air as soon as breaking news happens. Thanks. All right.